My name is Becca, this is MakingLARP, and today is my hot knots of the Great Erdrejan Faire 2014. So, as is traditional with this sort of thing, I'm going to start with my knots. For those that went out about last weekend, it was really muddy. Now, we were quite lucky in that, one, the rain mostly kept off during the time I was actually putting up the tent and things like that, and two, whilst it was muddy and awful, having seen the pictures of the state the fields were for Empire this weekend, we got off fairly well. Other big OC knot, Emma had some technical difficulties with her sleeping bag, which resulted in having to go out and buy a whole duvet for her to get under. Duvet turned out to be fantastic, and I was super warm even with just like a corner of it, but that is an expense that ideally we shouldn't have had to spend. And our last two OC knots are one in character and one out of character. Out of character, there was quite a lot of non-pulled blows, and Emma had a couple of different injuries. She got knocked out in a fight. There was a big PvP battle. She got knocked out, and unfortunately the fact that we're shouting man down, which is the official and only out of character call for someone being out of character injured, people were still hitting her when she had like dropped like a sack of rocks, and were hitting the people trying to like protect her so we could get her out to first aid, which was really unfortunate. And also she managed to give herself a back injury over the course of the weekend as well, which took her out of the final battle on the Monday and resulted in quite a few people, because she was walking around with her I'm out of character gesture, going to first aid and things like that, thinking that she had died in character. So while it caused a little bit of mischief in character, it was kind of really sucked, and that sort of thing really puts a dampener on the event, especially as I'm aware she was pretty miserable with the cold. There was also a terror over the weekend, but I'm going to leave that for her if she wishes to fill people in on that. I think it might be mentioned in her own written hots and knots. There was a day she got quite drunk and was a bit of an arse. The other big knot was the death of a member of the company, Sharif or Sharef, I'm not sure. She was a very new member played by one of our friends who had retired a previous character because she wasn't really the right fit for what she wanted, and it's as a player who was new to LARP, it was her first ever character death rather than a retirement. So it seemed to hit her quite hard out of character, and as well it was a pretty big loss for the company because she's decided she's probably going to play with another faction. IC knots, again, losing a member of our group. She was just the barmaid and most of us hadn't bothered to learn her name, but losing someone was bad, and there was quite a lot of teary moments as we did a lay to rest right at the end as she died in the final battle on the Monday. So we were kind of doing that just before everyone timed out. That was pretty sad. There was a lot of drama to do with the Lions faction and people airing their grievances and getting very frustrated and little fallings out. I personally had a little bit of a moment with somebody else in the group who was kind of arguing that kind of put up or shut up, when we were just been discussing the fact that people were feeling intimidated into not talking about stuff publicly, and you're like, if you tell people that, they will stop bringing this up, and the next thing you know, people are going to reach their tipping point and no one's going to have any idea, and no one will have had the chance to fix it. So that was quite fun roleplay wise, and I really enjoyed it out of character, but in character it's some bad times at the moment. Generally rumble along, high encounter with the Lion stuff. I learnt a few things kind of in character-ish that kind of have changed my goal and outlook of what I want to do with the character a little bit. But as a whole, it was very much a that's mildly annoying problems with the being high encounter, rather than the well, what did you expect was going to happen? I warned you. Stop shouting at me issues that we had at the last event. there was quite a lot of me sighing and going off the character and going, that's an ecumenical matter, and then stomping off to go deal with it, which was fun for me, but not so good for my character. There isn't really a lot more knots. I had a pretty fun weekend in and out of character. There were bad things that happened. There were 3 members of the Lions died, murdered at the hands of another Lion. And unfortunately, all the hoo-ha that went around that, the trial, everything else, came up pretty inconclusive. My character doesn't genuinely know whether the guy did it. Well, we all know the guy did it, but he claims to have been possessed. There are ways of faking it, but he is known for being very, very good at killing people and not doing collateral damage. So whilst there was a possibility that he would have killed one of the people on purpose, it would be very unlikely for him to have done it with killing 2 extra people that didn't need to be killed and getting as caught as he did. So he's claiming it was a possession by one of the big bads, which entirely fits in with what could happen. There's a bunch of people arguing that, well, this is how we could have faked it, and unfortunately we're kind of at a standstill because of the nature of what had happened. It wasn't entirely on what's counted as Lion lands, and so it was dealt with by the militia guild, who deal with any kind of cross-factional or common area events, and they left a pretty open verdict. They said, we find him not guilty, but because this is a precedent for us, we've never before said that someone wasn't guilty just because they were possessed, we're going to leave it as an open case, giving us the opportunity to reopen it if there's more evidence. So while he currently stands as not guilty, it's not a exonerated sort of thing. So there's a lot of grumbling still going around. And feeding into the Lions are full of angst and woe. There was a lot of, because this had happened whilst I was asleep out of character. I'd gone to bed and this had happened in the dark. So I woke up in the morning and was talking to lots of different people and trying to find out what had happened. And so there was a lot of grumblings that there wasn't going to be a trial, that he was just going to get let off because of who he's mates with, which group he's in, and that sort of stuff. And because we were already spent most of the night before angsting over the way certain members of us feel about the way faction treats us, and anyone that's not, say, the mates with 4 or 5 certain people that actually do all the running everything, there was a big bunch of tension and a lot of groups going, if there isn't a trial, or if he's just let off, we will walk. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and the company is in a little bit firmer ground than we were. I think the fact that this all got done open in the air really kind of settled down a lot of the issues that we had. And now it's a wait and see game, because there's going to be a lot of changes to factional positions starting at the next event. So on to the HOTS, the biggest and bestest part of the show. OC, going down on the Thursday night, was fantastic. It's not often I get to do that due to various people, especially the lovely guy that drives us down, and my own work schedule. It means having the Friday off. So it kind of makes your whole holiday that little bit longer, which is great. It also means you get to spend most of the first day there out of character. So you get to actually have a chance to interact with people and get all the catching up with everyone and frothing and stuff done before time in happens, so you're less likely to kind of drift into wanting to do it whilst it's time in. There's lots of fun, lots of silliness, lots of drinking, and it was just gave the whole event a lot more of a relaxed feel to me. And the fact that most of the rest of the company had been able to do that as well was really good, because we actually got to spend some proper time together. Next big OC hot, all the angst and drama and woe. That's what I'm here for. That's what I roleplay for. It's for the character interaction, for the actually inhabiting another person. If I wanted to fight, I'd go to a karate class. It's that simple for me. It's really not a part of the game I enjoy that much, and I don't know how much of it was the weather and how much was it the fact that the GEF is quite a different setup to the rest of the events, in that there isn't a ritual circle and there'd just generally be a little less combat. The fact that I could have these big long conversations with people and spend that time getting to know people without there being a combat break every half an hour, couple of hours, was really nice, and it was actually made the event a lot better for me. OC, as always, it's great to catch up with my friends, to see people that I only see a couple of times a year. It's kind of the bog standard bit, but it's always a nice touch. IC, it was also good to have a relatively relaxed weekend. I couldn't have done anything without the fantastic help of Forg, who is my deputy in character and deals with all the military side of incantation. The fact that we were next to the guilds in terms of field placement meant that I actually got to go there, and in fact I ended up basically going there once or twice a day, popping across, seeing if there was any updates. And while I didn't get to do guild service, which is something I've kind of got a strategy in place for dealing with next event and making sure it gets done, the fact that I actually went and found out information and was able to relay it back to the faction was really helpful, especially when it came to the final battle. I didn't actually take part in the final battle myself. The way they had it set up is the big bad, who's called Dax, had a ritual team doing a bunch of things to attack the Watchers, who were the people that are directly connected to Erdreja, the dragon that is inside the egg that we all live on and we love all the bestest, and we're going to harm her as a way of doing stuff to affect Erdreja. And so we did a series of rites on each of the 4 Watchers as they were attacked, which was role played amazingly. This was the final battle, so we were all in the area where the rituals would normally be hosted, and where the ritual circle would be, there was an illusion of the ritualists doing these rituals. So basically we could all hear them shouting, and they used microphones and other NPCs wandering around, relaying the message as illusions of the bad guys, really amping up the fear factor that we know they wouldn't be physically harming us. They really amped up the vibes and made it feel really intense, so that when we were doing this, we got a good sense of fear without having the dangers that were there of those that like to do combat. We were dealing with this in one room, and outside the big battle was happening with people fighting undead and lichens and whatever it was out there. That was supposed to be a really, really intense final fight. From what I've heard, people loved it. There were a lot of people that were nearly dead. There were a lot of, obviously we mentioned at least one person actually dying. Only one from the Lions though. Only the one from the company is the only death that we've actually aware of from the final fight. So while it sucks that only one person died and it happened to be one of ours, there was a lot of close calls, including down to kind of tens of seconds left, but there was only one actual character death. So it was really good kind of level of pants wetting adrenaline and everything that the combat monkeys love without just being a slaughter. I don't know how much the ref team were interplaying what was going on in the rituals and the rites in terms of what was happening on the field and how that interplayed, whether they were treated as entirely separate, but both sets seem to have got a really good adrenaline buzz and sense of drama. Over the rest of the weekend, there was quite a few fun things going on. The Great Erdrejan Faire is generally a more games-based event, so each of the guilds has their own games that they put on. Didn't really get to take part in most of them. As a group, we did a little go at the bank's scavenger hunt challenge, but I've got no idea if we finished it off. Basically, we were all given a list of objects you had to find. Every group's set was different. In our case, it included things like a tall dwarf and a short elf. So we were going around asking if anyone knew any kid elves, because we figured they'd be the shortest and things like that. But I think it got put to the wayside a bit when all the actual plot kicked off. When I was doing the rites, I actually got the opportunity to hold the light shard, which is an item of quite a lot of power from the Encanters Guild. We just used a right focus, but I did get a look at the Lammy card and it's pretty epic if I was ever to have an opportunity to use its full effects properly. But it was nice as a light incanter to get to hold that and play around with that a bit in the rite. It was also a really nice roleplay moment because as part of our rite we were doing theology as incanters, so all about the different ancestors and people's belief and using that to protect the Watcher. And so we were asked to call upon not just a light ancestor or a dark ancestor, but one of each of the 3 schools, so light, grey and dark. So it was quite fun to actually get a chance to talk to people about the other aspects of the Morbian faith that aren't really represented on the field at the moment, especially as myself and one of the other members of the company pretty much wrote additional ancestors, and they haven't really gotten to come into play at all yet. It also meant there were some good role-play moments where quite a few people were talking about ancestors they don't talk about worshipping publicly, especially as we were mostly Team Lion on theology. So we don't really talk about the darker side of things all that much. So I learned some stuff that I have promptly forgotten, but it'll be interesting to see where those things lie, if they do at all. I didn't make it out of the faction very much. I didn't make it to another factions camp at all once this weekend, despite our ideal kind of in the centre placement. But it was good to have the interactions I did have with people from other factions in and out of character. I got to be kind of the person that kept everyone up to date with what's going on with the Unlife plot line, whilst the main proponent of one of the sides is married to one of our crown princes in character, and she generally keeps us up to date. There were a few things that maybe she wasn't mentioned or haven't got round, and it was nice. I was actually keeping people in the loop, and that I'm kind of being recognised now as my position within the faction as far as my other respective ancestor buddies from other factions. So it might be nice at some point to organise a big ancestral meeting with some of the other high-ups from different factions and maybe see what's going on, because quite a lot of people are having ancestor problems at the moment, as is generally the way. We did manage to resolve, or partly resolve, one of the ancestor-based plot lines of the weekend. We were able to find out who was causing trouble to one of our minor ancestors and get it sorted out. We do know that there are 2 more people out there who have been given the same task, so it's kind of a watching and waiting situation on that score to see who gets attacked next. But at the moment, my job's fairly simple because there isn't really any ancestral problems for me to worry about. I don't expect it to last very long, but it is quite nice whilst it's there. Not a lot interesting to catch everyone up with the human stone. We're still bimbling along. I still haven't been awakened yet. No one's tried to nick it or otherwise cause any trouble, which is nice. And of course, in character, as I mentioned, the angst and drama and why, and the oh my god, should we even be in the Lions? What are the Lions really? Do things like no lion stands alone mean anything when they seem to be applied only when more important people are in trouble and not, the rest of us? So actually having the chance to have in-depth conversations with the people who may be responsible for fixing these problems was really nice. Now, not everyone that we talk to agreed with us, and that's part of the angst, drama and woe and stuff, but it was nice to kind of clear the air and get the grievances out there. It was actually really nice to get to sit on some of the higher up meetings that were done quite openly this weekend, and the Queen was in a really good mood and didn't look at me like I was dirt once. I don't know if she's seen these videos or if it's just a mood swing or something, but she was nice. But yeah, actually feeling relatively respected and getting involved and getting to watch the part of it that is why she's the Queen, as much as I may not like her and think that she's not very nice to us, and actually kind of commanding the rest of the light factions and going, hey, we are the light factions. We're going to lead this charge to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And getting to watch her kind of give that almost speech, and that was really quite impressive. And it really fills me with hope that if we can sort out the almost administrative problems with the fear or the feeling from a lot of us that only a few people get to be involved in the decisions, and council members outright telling us, yeah, we don't even get to make these decisions, and if we bring them up, we bring up these issues in council meetings, they will dismiss us. This is exactly how they will dismiss us. This is how they do it at every meeting. Sorry guys, yeah, that was really nice, and I'm hoping that we can build on it and we can fix that side of the issue and work on fixing the faction. The other two big great things that happened were the tea party. Now, with the weather being as it was, we had a lot of people in the command tent and it was squishy and squelchy and not very nice. But the tea party in the command tent was really awesome. People brought some awesome cake and biscuits, and people had put some time and effort into getting stuff that was gluten-free and all that kind of different stuff for people with dietary requirements. And there was tea and coffee going, and I even brought the Shrine to Caffeine through, which I don't know if you've seen from my packing video, is a wooden chest with a whole bunch of different teas, coffees, fruit teas, some of the little tea bag varieties, some with the loose leaf, and I've even got a little robot shaped tea strainer thing for putting the loose leaf tea in. But unfortunately, or fortunately, because they were doing basically pots of tea and pots of coffee, there wasn't like hot water, so we didn't really use any of that. But they laid on squash, they did everything you could possibly want in terms of soft drinks. The cake selection was amazing. It makes me really wish I could actually cook and that we'd have the kind of space to bring stuff down. Maybe next GEF we'll sort something. But one of the things they did after the tea party was order out prizes. Most of it was gold, which was, you know, gold. We'd get the prince to jiggle for quite a lot of gold actually. So the faction stores don't look as horrendous as they did. And hopefully we can maybe go get Demon Bane weapon to hit our bad guy in the face with. That'd be real nice. But we did get a item that made someone appear as a ancestor of cake, which was pretty funny, and that was given to the person with the best overall or bake, who is a tiny little pixie who is also the Sirene of War and terrifying, but green and with wings. It's so good, so good. And then we did not a ritual as part of the ritual game. I just watched, I wasn't actually in the team, to make Erdreja smile. That was the entire goal. We didn't ask for any shinies. We literally said, we don't want anything, we just want to make Erdreja happy. And we said, hey, cake, look at our ancestral cake. That'll make you smile. Doesn't everyone love cake? And not only did Erdreja smile, she smiled so much that these wonderful potion bottles full of all sorts of different things were delivered to us. I've heard someone refer to her out character as Erdreja's Tears of Joy, but that was pretty awesome. And the ritual itself was really good. And having talked to the person from the company who is about to be a faction high ritualist, because as I mentioned, there's going to be some changeover and that officially kicks in next event. I think the pair of them, our guy is much more of a planning, structured guy, and so he tends to get really high scores for relevance, and the other guy did something quite off the cuff that was really entertaining, and while he didn't get loads of relevant score, he got a really high entertainment score. If the two of them can work together and improve each other's rituals, we could have a fantastically high scoring ritual team, and that would be amazing. Now, I can't list all of the games that happened at the Great Erdrejan Faire, but the big one, and unfortunately we didn't do too well with it, is Jugger, which is best described to me as a non-flying form of Quidditch. The Lions didn't do particularly well, but I'm going to link to a video of some of the Jugger from this weekend as my recommendation for this video. So yeah, these videos always end up a bit more of a ramble than a proper hots and knots. I think it's just not having the list format. But yeah, it was a fantastic weekend. I loved it. And if I didn't see you on the field and I didn't get a chance to say hello, please do find me at the next two events if you get a chance. I don't know where the Lions can be camped yet, but I will be bimbling about somewhere and hoping to be in the Encounters Guild most mornings. And hopefully I'll see you at the Summer Moon. I'm going to go through a glossary of terms associated with the Lorien Trust.